मिलिंद मोरे सर, चिदानंद जी के बाद मिलिंद मोरे सर, क्योंकि उन्होंने ये सब्जेक्ट दिया था. एंड देन पारिक सर. Unmute, please unmute. Chidanandji, please unmute.
Yes, now I have unmuted.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Namaste, everybody. Good evening to one and all. I am happy to join all of you once more this evening. And I thank Milind More for proposing this topic, for this is a very challenging topic. The topic this evening is death and love. At the outset, we must be very clear that we are not talking about clinical death. Clinical death, when this physical body ceases to function, is not a big issue at all if we look at life from broader angles of view. Of course, considering all the attachments that we have to people, to things, to places, and all those attachments are rooted in our attachment to ourselves. Considering our attachments, clinical death has always caused a lot of fear in us. We notice that, especially in these COVID times, everybody is very, very concerned about some near and dear ones possibly dying, or they themselves becoming a victim to this deadly disease. Therefore, we don't want to be insensitive to disease and clinical death. However, this evening's topic regards death from a different angle of seeing. So, what is the death that we are talking about, and how does death connect with love? Once more, clinical death has no connection with love. Clinical death is like a coma and not a full stop in some mysterious journey of consciousness. And we don't want to get into those arguments where people wonder whether it is the same individual consciousness that moves on and probably takes another body and all that. That whole subject has a different smell altogether, and whatever be the truth of that subject is of no interest to us in the light of this evening's topic, where we want to ask, does death have a relation with love? And the great mystics who have pondered life in great depth talk about a certain death which not only has an intimate relation with love, but it is in fact no different from love. Death is love and love is death is the voice of mystics, those penetrating minds. So we want to examine how death can be love or love can be death. In his teachings, of course, revered Krishnaji has thrown a lot of light on two sets. One set is thought, and you may add to that set the self, which to some people has to be made more clear, calling it the separate self. By self, we mean the separate self. By self, we mean myself is different from yourself. and then again is different from somebody's self. So without getting into those definitions again, we talk about the self, then there is thought, and then there is time. Self, thought, and time are different sides of different aspects of the same issue. What I mean is, where there is the self, there is thought. Where there is thought, there is time. And where there is time, there is thought. Where there is thought, there is self. In other words, elsewhere we could have talked about two sides of the same coin. Now here there are three sides of an entity, and these three are ever together. The self, thought, and time are together. And then there is this love and death and life. The death and life come together in the second set. Of course, we don't mean the life of the self, the egoistic life, the life of jealousy or pride, life of hurt and different low or high self-esteem and so on. But there is a certain vibrant life. Probably we call that kind of life a clear stream flowing. So you have to say just once more, thought, time, and self on one hand. Maybe it is one realm, one frame of reference. It is like avidya bhumi, if I may use a single Sanskrit word. In avidya bhumi, a frame of reference marked by inattention, ignorance, error, confusion, etc. In that frame of reference, there is the self, there is thought, operation of thought, and then there is time. And then there is vidya bhumi, the frame of reference for you and I to apply our minds to. When we have an insight into this second frame of reference, vidya bhumi, it is in this vidya bhumi that there is love, there is life, and there is death. So now it is time we consider what kind of death we are talking about. One of the ways we may appreciate death in this totally different sense is it is a state where there is no image. Freedom from images is death. For the moment you and I find ourselves holding on to an image, in the clutches of an image, sometimes not an image, but many images. Thought, as all of us know, is ever busy in comparing, in assessing or evaluating how worthy I am, how successful I am, or what a failure I am. All this is the endless mischief of thought and the very criteria, the very yardsticks that we use to assess ourselves, judge ourselves as successful, failure, good, bad, etc., are all so questionable. However, we have countless yardsticks, countless way to pigeonhole ourselves, pigeonhole somebody, saying, oh, he's a small person, oh, this is a big fellow, oh, that's a very eminent person, and this fellow is worth peanuts. Oh, how treacherous thought is. Therefore, in the domain of thought, all kinds of judgmentalism is sure to raise its ugly head. But in life, in that clear stream of life, where there are no images, there is true love. Therefore, freedom from images is death, which is love. And this death is totally unconnected to clinical death. Let's leave clinical death behind and dwell on this death, which is at once love. Now, why do we call it death? If it is freedom from images, we may just say freedom from images and stop there. But we do call it death. Mystics call it death because there is a certain dying. There is a certain dying out of that pure insight of the falsity of images. Falsity of, call it self-judgment, call it judgment of others. How silly, how shallow, and how painful, how undignified it is to look at somebody as a small person and to look at somebody else as enviable, as someone, as somebody who we want to become like her or we want to become like him. This process of thought is really an ugly affair. So we call this death, for one dies to judgmentalism. One dies to these images of the past. One dies to regrets. One dies to pride over probably how uh, we were felicitated, we were honored, we got a title, we got a trophy, we were called to the stage, and how wonderful it was, and so on. All these kinds of images take us on a roller coaster ride in the life marked by the self. But when we die to all this pride and hurt, when we die to all this sense of high and low, big and small, that death is the same as freedom from images. Therefore, while people with less understanding of the matter make living in the present an affair of will. Oh, I'm going to live in the present. I'm not going to let my mind go to the past. I'm not going to let my mind get anxious about the future. They think, and they want to go about it with, willpower. Living in the present is a popular topic. If one of you writes A to Z of living in the present, it will sell like hotcakes. But if you tell them these are the 7 steps or the 3 techniques or the 5 ways to live in the present, you make it all an affair of effort and willpower and going about doing something, then it is terrible injustice to that beautiful topic of living in the living moment. The present moment alone is living moment. Moments gone by are dead moments. Moments yet to come are unborn. There is only the present. As someone beautifully said, you may refer to April 20 as future. 5 days from now, on April 20, let's meet at Gateway of India, Mumbai, you may say. Now, on the so-called April 20, when you meet your friend at the Gateway of India, Mumbai, and excusing COVID, you shake hands with your friend, do you say, finally we have met at this future date? When you actually shake hands with your friend in front of or behind the Gateway of India, you say, here we are. You use present tense. Here we are at this moment. Now we are together. We are shaking hands. It's neither the past nor the future. So the point I'm making is when you actually meet the so-called future date, for which I gave an example, April 20, it is the present. So is the case with, let's say, March 15. Today we talk about March 15, 2021 as the past. But if on March 15 you were with your sister sipping some hot tea, on that so-called March 15, sitting with your sister sipping some hot tea, did you say, well, we are sipping some tea in the past? When you actually meet with any moment, it is only the present moment. You can never shake hands with the moments of the past. You can never shake hands with the moments of the future. What is the present. But the self has a clever way of giving reality to the so-called future and to the so-called past. Therefore, we say that this business of living in the present has to be a matter of understanding and not will. So, when we say ending of images, what it boils down to is not belonging to any image. We do not belong to any community, any sect, any religion, any school of thought, any linguistic group, any geographical group. There is rising above all kinds of belonging. So therefore, once more we call it death, dying to all belonging. For sense of belonging is the product of thought. So how do we connect this death, dying to the past, dying to images, dying to memories? How do we connect it to love? Love is, in the purest sense of the word, love is once more where the self is not. Love is where the self is not. Now, at once, it gets down to love is where thought is not. Love is where time is not. So, self, thought, and time have no room in love. This is indeed challenging to our conditioned mind. Our conditioned mind, and conditioned even heavily by Hollywood and Bollywood and all sorts of things which others write, and sometimes in crazy moments we also write some nonsensical stuff. And all this media, all this material available around us, inside us, would make love a matter of memories. Love for people in their ignorance is clinging to particular memories. So, in the name of love, they want to remember some place where they had ice cream together. They want to remember even some work that they did together. So, we need to examine this operation of thought. Thought, in fact, has a lot of emotional and sensational content. With due respect to emotions, with due respect to sensations, which are part of life generally, we need to examine whether they are true, whether they are real, whether they are, in the domain of fancy. Are they fact or are they fancy? A little child takes a doll and clings so much to the doll. This girl of 6 years, let us say, embraces, holds on to a doll so tightly that at night, even when her mother or father puts her on the bed and says, "Go to sleep," The little girl of 6 years would ensure that her doll is in her tight grip. Holding her doll very tightly, she agrees to sleep. And you know what happens in the next few hours. She rolls several times on the bed in one direction, and the doll may fall off the bed in another direction. But there is a state of mind where to that 6-year-old girl, the doll in her hands meant the whole world. Nothing else mattered. Like that, friends, when we are in the domain of thought, when we take lots of unreal things to be real, we are no different from that 6-year-old girl. Memories, all kinds of images, all kinds of pictures, all kinds of sensations. Therefore, we are questioned. Mystics ask us a question. Is the emotional content of thought to be taken as love? Is love the same as some kind of emotional movement? Now, I already said, with due respect to emotions, we don't want to trample upon anybody's sentiments or emotions. Just like we don't want to forcibly take away the doll from that 6-year-old girl and just remain insensitive to any amount of crying that the girl may get into. That is not the point. But with eyes of wisdom, we can easily see that this 6-year-old grandniece of ours, or whoever, is in her own illusion. That tight embrace, that tremendous attachment that she has towards that doll is an illusion we are able to see. Now, what we do is a different story. What we do, whether we have to advise her to drop that doll, we don't have to get into those details at all. Therefore, this topic, how love is not memories, love is not possessiveness, love is not jealousy, because possessiveness and jealousy go together. I say I love somebody, and when somebody else says he loves the same person, and maybe he claims that that person loves him more than he or she loves me, I get a little uneasy. Those are the symptoms of possessiveness. And in no time, it turns into jealousy. No wonder this jealousy, this possessiveness, this clinging to the false extends way beyond ordinary relationships, parents and children, between siblings, and of course the so-called romantic love between man and woman, or man and man, woman and woman. There are so many bonds that come into picture in life, and this possessiveness, jealousy, etc., are seen in these relationships. Without going into details, don't we read in newspapers every second day, even murders being committed in the name of love? Somebody says he loved some girl, and then he may murder some other person who was also trying to come into this scenario. Or the worst thing is, when the girl refuses to have anything to do with this boy, a while ago he had claimed that he loves her so much. Now he gets into fury and pours a bottle of kerosene on her and sets her ablaze. Such heinous crimes are committed. We read about them in newspapers and other media, and the word love is used. You can understand what people have made out of love. Lastly, I would say that the misunderstood love extends even to the so-called spiritual world. love of guru, love of a symbol, love of some particular book, love of some so-called holy place, love of so-called certain tools or let's say some instruments people may use, some, some artifacts and so on. So in the name of love, people become so possessive. People deny to other people their necessary freedom, necessary space. This is my place of meditation. Don't you enter and sit here. In this kind, this is my guru, this is my ashram, this is my religion, this is my holy book. I love my religion, and so on. Into all these processes of thought, we need to inquire. Once more, I would say this is not about going from one sentiment to the opposite. Somebody is very attached to some symbol, and if you and I say, I don't have any attachment to these symbols, and we want to do something opposite, take that symbol and put it below our foot, that would be, equally horrible. In the name of no attachment, we are not to, do something which has the foul smell of hatred or dislike or some kind of trampling upon somebody's sentiments and so on. Then compassion or, certain healthy sentiments have gone out of the window. So without making it very long, let me summarize what I have thought of sharing with all of you this evening. Death is not clinical death. Death is dying to images. And images are a domain where there is the operation of thought, of memory, of I, me, and my, of the self, of time. Of course, we mean psychological time. And in that domain of time and self and thought and all these, there cannot be true love. In dying to these images, in dying to wanting to become, in dying to, see ourselves in some particular way where we imagine that our life is now successful and so on, in all those fictitious ideas to which our mind tends to cling, there is in fact bondage. So one is to be free of them, and that is lastly, and one more time, not a matter of will. It is insight. Therefore, it is through seeing that what we are doing is so childish that we, through that seeing itself, we get free. There is then right action. We say seeing is right action. Leave alone the statement, the seeing leads to right action. Why that gap at all? Seeing is right action. Of course, that becomes another wonderful topic for another discussion some other day. How seeing is action. We would not even want to say seeing leads to right action, as though there is a gap. So why, in what sense do we say there is no gap? In what sense do we, object to that expression leads to? Seeing leads to right action, etc., has to be examined. So death is dying to memories, dying to images, dying to I am so and so, I am such and such, etc. And love is basically the absence of the self. Love is where there is no possessiveness, no jealousy. Rather, there is a breaking down of barriers, and there is a great natural being. That sahaja sthiti, as they call it, is love, not anything kritrima, artificial. With these words, let me pause. I'm on travel and I'm in Chennai, and I may have to leave after a few minutes, but I would like to join for a few more minutes. And sorry to this evening, I won't be available for any questions also. I'll just stay quietly for some time and quietly disappear. Thank you all. Namaskar.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Sir, should we allow question immediately so that you can answer them one or two questions?
No. I think today, for a change, let me be
Okay.
unquestionable.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. But seeing is doing is a subject for you to
All right. Next
sit
time,
later on.
some
Okay,
other
next.
time.
So, sir, next Thursday we take this as a subject. Do you mind, sir?
Oh,
Seeing, doing.
we don't know. We'll decide in a day or two. Harshad Bhai will
Okay.
help us finalize.
Okay. Sir, Milind More, sir, would you please
Share, sir.
Yes, sir.
unmute and
I,
thank you very much.
I hope
Everybody is next.
I hope I'm audible because I have moved to a remote location.
Audible.
Thanks to the thanks to the technology that it's amazing to sit in almost a forest-like area and be able to communicate with everyone from different parts of the country. So so maybe I could begin with saying that actually this thought very instinctively came to me about proposing for this topic of death. I think it was about 2 or 3 sessions earlier when we were discussing about some point and trying to listen to each other. And at one point, I felt that we are not really listening to each other. And at that point, I felt that can I keep my thoughts? Can I keep my desire to express myself a little bit on hold to listen to others? And that led to the instant thought about, can I die to that thought? And that's how in that particular meeting towards the end, I felt that, we should discuss about death. Of course, as Swamiji brought out that we are not talking about clinical death. Now that is a fact of life, and all of us understand that part, that it is inevitable, and it is something as a fact that we see. So with that as the background, when we look at it, and as Swamiji also talked about the aspect of how the image formation takes place and how we are attached to these images, and then how these images lead to other aspects of life, be it attachment or jealousy or envy. Now the ground is already prepared moment the attachment comes in. So the question is about dying to that. And when I look at life around me, as a fact in the nature, we see life and death, but I also see that in my own body, for example, our body constitutes of billions of cells, and every moment there are thousands or lakhs, as scientific studies have revealed, talk about them dying and talk about them renewing themselves at the physical level itself. It is scientific studies also talk about our whole body renewing itself every few years. So there is some renewing which is happening, and renewing implies that something is dying in one sense. So that is at the physical level. When it comes to the aspect of mind, we also see that, well, before coming to mind, I think if I look at the senses, when we look at what we see or what we taste or what we hear or what we touch, now again, there is a sense of coming and going. There is nothing permanent in this. When I see something, it is for a moment or few. When I taste something, it is there for a while and goes. So even at the physical sense level or a sense perception level, everything is temporary. It is all rising and dying also. So that's what we see around. Coming at the mind level, we see that it is the same thing. The thoughts come and go, the feelings come and go, the emotions come and go, the perceptions come and go. So So that's how one sees around the life, that there is nothing permanent in that way. Then why is it that we hold on to our arguments? Why is it that we hold on to impress upon others something, to justify oneself? Why is it so easy for us to condemn? Why is it easy? It's so easy for us to justify or identify with something, or attach with something. Is that natural, or we make it natural in a certain way which perhaps we don't understand? So this is a question for me, uh, and uh, and this is what I would like to explore, as to why we as humans uh, are prone to a way of looking at things, or rather prone to uh, live a life which is so reactive, which is so where there is such an urgency of immediacy in kind of living. Can we hold certain things for a while and see how things change, or how things happen? Can I see that? And I find that there is a great value in it in my own personal life. I've seen myself working, in a way where everything had to be done day before yesterday, to a point where I can take a pause now. I have learned to be tentative. I have learned to see things in a little slow manner, and I see great value in it. Uh, there are many things which perhaps one is attached to. One can question that in a manner, by not reacting to it immediately. So in that sense, do I see the value of not holding? Do I see the value of not aligning? Do I see the value of not clinging to something? Do I see the value in not attaching to something? Yes, there is something there. Uh, and in a sense, is it not dying to that thing? Uh, I mean, if the question kind of expands in that way. So I'll put this as a question to all of us. I'm sure what I'm saying is nothing new. Everybody understands that. The, the only difficulty is of seeing it in practice. So I just would like to read out a passage which, though not directly talks about dying and love, or death of love, but it does in a way connect up. Now, this was a dialogue which Krishnamurti has with David Young in Ohio in 1944. And the topic of this particular page is, let the conscious mind be busy, awaken the other part to observe. And I think I thought it kind of hints at what the question started it for me, that while we are busy arguing or busy discussing or having a dialogue with everyone around us, can I also awaken something else which is also observing? So that's the topic. Let the conscious mind be busy, awaken the other part to observe. So it will just take about maybe 2 minutes. So I'll read this and I'll finish with that. So it goes like this. Instead of stopping the thought process, watch it like a movie. This is to be distinguished from letting it flow unconsciously. Instead, do it consciously. Rather, project the unconscious into the conscious mind until the whole of the conscious mind has been unraveled. During an activity such as washing dishes, the process of watching can go on. Now I'm talking to you, my attention is on you, but the photographic process is going on. When I give a lecture, my whole attention is on the audience, but the recording process continues, and afterwards I can look at my inward reactions. If I'm talking to someone about something that occupies merely my superficial attention, I'm aware of what is going on inside me, but I cannot give my whole attention to think about it until I am alone. You begin to see yourself. At first, you'll be ashamed but that will pass. Okay? You begin to see yourself. At first, you will be ashamed, but that will pass. You will become interested in what lies behind those thoughts and feelings. The photographic process will continue. The photographs will be there to examine in between activities. Once begun and given the right environment, the awareness is like a flame. It will grow immeasurably. The difficult thing is to begin the faculty. By right environment, I mean not to be tired, have enough time to be aware, work on it, and give it enough fuel. The fuel is one's daily life. Look and see when you are sensuous. Sex is just one part of it. Take sensuality in its most general sense, eating, sense of power, achievement, taking sides, in fact, craving in all its forms. We have to watch very carefully all the time. Any feeling, for example, envy or anger, is a result of the past. You must work on this, think about it, and try to see it in all its aspects calmly, detachedly. That is trying to free oneself from the past. You must meditate on this until you feel it all throughout your being, not just one layer, but all the layers. Then there will be great calmness, infinite peace. It is very revealing to examine the thoughts that the mind has at any moment and find out why the mind has that thought. Yes, so I've finished with this. Maybe we can continue.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for sharing such a good discourse. May I request Harshad sir to go ahead?
Okay. Good evening, friends. Thank you, Milind and Chidanandji, for giving a very good introduction and ideas, questions about the topic, which is love and death. Now, the love in the sense in which Krishnamurti, like love is when the self, the ego, is not. That means there is no jealousy, attachment, fear, anger, freedom from all that. Then only love is possible. So one has to look at what is happening in our daily life whenever these problems come, like jealousy, fear, attachment. One has to look at it very, very carefully. And in my life, when I was very deeply attached to somebody, I was watching all these feelings, anger, fear, jealousy, loneliness. I have gone through all that, observed that, and I feel that I have come out, and then only real love is possible. And then one can love not only one person, but many, many. Love is a state of being in which there are no problems, there are no thinking, no images. And so it is not just loving Krishnamurti or somebody, but love is a state of freedom. And such love is very, very rare in our life. And that is why Krishnaji says, if parents really loved their children, we would not have war and we would have real peace on earth. And so this love is not there, attachment is there, and then it creates many, many problems in relationship. And there is one song which I like, which says, Prem, Prem, sab koi kahe. Everybody talks about love, but nobody really knows what love is. Because if a person really feels love, he will not remain separate from the world. It says, Prem Prem sab koi kahe, par prem na jane koi. Jo koi jane jagat ma, pachi juda rahe na koi. That means we don't remain separate like a ego, I am separate from others. That is because there is a thinking, and the thinking creates the self sense of I, me, and then there is you, and then there is a duality, and then there are conflicts in relationship. So most relationships are full of conflicts because there is this sense of I, me, ego exists. And this topic of love and death, that means no sense of I. And that is the state of love. So actually, the state of love is the state of psychological death. But this happens very, very rarely, though people can explain everything because Krishna ji has explained everything. And when I decided to join Krishnamurti school in 1979, and before that, I wrote a spontaneous letter to Krishna ji, and in that there is one sentence which came out. I wrote that I would like to teach to your students in Krishnamurti schools about love, beauty, and life. And I also wrote that these things cannot be taught, and I don't know how to teach these things, but I can teach physics and mathematics, for which I am very much qualified. So I taught physics and mathematics, and I liked teaching physics, mathematics. But more important than that is about the quality of our life, our mind, what is happening within us, and to watch very, very carefully. And that state, it requires the freedom to watch. Maybe initially one needs aloneness to watch, but when we become very good at looking at ourselves, it can go on in our daily life. And even when in relationship, if there is a jealousy or fear or anger comes, we can see it directly. That means one has to be in touch with what is every moment and effortlessly, because you cannot do this with an effort. So only people who are very, very passionate and who want to go really at the depth of our problems, psychological problems, one needs that kind of awareness and effortless ongoing awareness in which whatever is happening is revealed. So this kind of love, which is a freedom from this ego self, is very, very rare. Maybe that is the aim or the goal of religious spiritual life. And so Krishna ji always talked about that at the end, because he talked about all the problems which are bothering us: fear, desire, pleasure. So I like to say something about love. What Krishna ji has said is very, very beautiful in commentaries on living. And in very short sentences, Krishna ji is saying something very, very deep. And one thing which I read when I read love in relationship is a purifying process as it reveals the ways of the self. And without this revelation, relationship has very little significance. So a real relationship, love, is the process in which we learn about ourselves. And that learning can go on. It is not accumulated learning and learning from that gathering of knowledge. It is something very fresh. And here Krishnaji says, love is a strange thing, and how soon it withers, how soon the smoke smothers the flame. Like when two people, when they begin to love each other, they are very much loving. But when they live with each other for a few days, then the images are built about each other, and then they don't see things very clearly. And then many images are built, and then anger and fear and jealousy and all these feelings come when we live together physically. So this is the real challenge, whether one can learn in relationship, not in isolated meditation. And I feel that I really learned from relationship. And when that it was full of attachment, there was anger, there's a fear, there's a lot of sorrow. I went through it, but I was able to come out of it. And then I really felt I'm really free, you know. So I am speaking from my own life. It's not quoting Krishnamurti, but quotations are very beautiful. But we can learn if we are really awake. And here it says, without love, do what you will, there can be no chastity. And love is not of the mind. It is not in the net of thoughts. It cannot be sought out, cultivated, cherished. It is when the mind is silent and the heart is empty of the things of the mind. So only when there is a real innocence, freedom without images, when there is no self, there is a state of love. And that is a psychological death, which is a freedom. If I say a little bit about Raman Maharshi, he had the feeling and experience of death, which came to him at the age of 17, in which he saw his body dying, but he was fully alive. And that experience, which was at a psychological level, it was a genuine experience which made him free. And he left his house and went without fear to Arunachal, and he meditated, and there was nothing. His mind was very empty and very full of something which we cannot describe. And then later on, he had another experience in which he saw the body dying, and even the color of the skin has changed. He saw that his friend who was with him was crying, and he thought that Raman Maharshi has died, and so he was crying. But Raman Maharshi was able to see from outside the body. And then after a few minutes, there was some kind of electric current in the body, and the body came back to life. So it was a death at the physical level. And so such things can also happen to mystics who have gone very, very deep into the spirituality, have really been free from the fear. And why it is difficult to die psychologically, because it means there is no thinking, and that state of no thinking, which is a psychological death, is it creates a lot of fear in people of not being. But that state in which there is no thinking is actually the state of freedom. Freedom from I, freedom from thinking, freedom from images. It is fully alive state in which everything is seen very, very clearly, very, very beautifully. But people are afraid of that state. And so the mind continues to chatter, and it wants to remain alive. It doesn't want to die. And another thing Krishnaji says, love is the only true revolution. But love is not an idea. It is when the thought is not. And so there are many, many beautiful quotations of Krishnamurti about love, about death, and one can meditate and not think about it. Thinking about it and becoming very good, it means very little as long as there is no freedom. Freedom from the self, the me, I, which creates many problems in relationship. So I can go on. I used to talk about this, my favorite topics, love, beauty, life, to students for many, many years. And I learned from many songs also, many beautiful songs. Like a song which says, माना अपनी जेब से फकीर है, फिर भी यारो दिल के हम अमीर है. That richness in the heart, that is a real love. And that love is not for somebody. It is not attachment. It is a state of being open to nature, to people, and looking, whether it is Krishnamurti or somebody else, and listening to people. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Any question, comment? Please raise your hand.
Okay, Dinesh. Yes, Dinesh.
Sir, I want to discuss one point with you. We say that the thought is to be free. We should be free from the thought. But we have to keep it for the reference, as in your dialogue also. You said, are you able to listen to me, sir?
Yeah, I am able to listen, but I did not say that one should be free from thinking. There is another dimension which can look at thinking. And that is very important. Because without thinking, we cannot have a dialogue also.
Right.
Right.
So you mean to say that death means death from the past memories,
Yes.
death of the
Yes.
past memories.
Yes. Yes.
But for reference, we require all the past memories. As you also said that when I met first time with the Krishnamurti and all that, all the time you give also references of the old time, past
Yeah.
time. So for that we require memories also. So the real
Yes.
challenge is how you can remain with your memories and at the same time you remain free also from that.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
so
Mm.
it is a real challenge. So how do you address? Because in my case, as you have given your reference of experience, in
Yeah.
my case, I find that the conscious mind, okay, understands all these things, but
Mm.
subconscious and unconscious, at
Mm.
both levels, there are so many things of the past which create the impediment or which create the problems. So how
Okay.
only just by looking, how can
Yeah.
one get rid of those things, of past hurts and all those things? Similarly, my question is also to Mr. Milind More, who said that all the things are changing, but at the same time, many things are constant also. So it's the reality is made up of, or the actuality is made up of change as well as the thing as the constant. So it's not only that the things are changing. Say for example, my body. Since so many years, there are changes in the body, but the personality remains the same, individuality remains the same. So there are so many things. So how to remain free at the same time? That is the question. That is the real challenge. So what do you have to say?
May I say that even when there is a thinking from the past comes, one can see it in the present, and then it doesn't create any problem. But when there is no awareness, then that thinking multiplies and it creates, it's like a horse without the horse rider. If you allow the horse, it will go in all direction. But if the rider is there, it it can make the horse go in proper direction. So when there is this awareness is there, it can make thought go in a proper orderly way, and it doesn't create problem. And if there is any problem is coming, this awareness is looking at it. So it requires an ongoing awareness, which cannot be, one cannot do it with effort, because with effort you will get tired.
So it's not a question of will.
Yes, yes, yes.
So it again we are calling then time in between, because ongoing awareness means time is also involved.
Mm, the time is moving, and this awareness is looking at the time or thought, which is outside the field of time.
So such awareness is required, which is out of time and space also.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Milind, sir.
Maybe can I? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, very interesting questions. What I would say, in fact, I would like to add to what Harshad sir said about the thought process or the possibility of what Mr. Dinesh's question was, possibility of stopping the thought. I'm not so sure if there's a possibility of stopping the thought, but there is a possibility of seeing its limitations. And having seen the limitations, something can happen out of that understanding. So whether response to the thought, or your response to the situation, or your response to, or your reaction to, whatever things around you, the quality of it may change. And that is something which one needs to experience oneself to see. So I leave it at that. That is one part. The second question which you mentioned was about that there are things which are constant, uh, and like you gave example of your personality and certain things which you perhaps may remember from your childhood, or as you grow old, they may appear to be constant. I would again like to question this, that is it really so? And what is constant here is certainly my clinging to it, as I see. My attachment to it, that appears to be constant. But as far as if I disregard that, then I'm changing all the time, and I'm renewing all the time at the biological level. And if I don't hold on to things, then I see that my relationships also renew. My view about the world also changes based on what I'm holding and what I'm dropping. So I'm not so sure if there is anything which is constant, or maybe in a lighter tone. I see only death is a constant factor. Everything else changes. Uh, so understanding of death, I find, can provide that common thread in understanding many things that we are talking about. I mean, that's where the intimacy with understanding of death, I feel, is very revealing. And if that is understood, then I think one can see very clearly what is temporary, what is impermanent, what is permanent, what is changing, what is not changing. It's a matter of then observation and seeing things. And in that perception, I think it operates. There is no involvement of, I think I'll not mention that because it may confuse the matter, but thought has very limited space in that. That's all I have to say.
Sir, what I was trying to say, that sun rises every day, and sunset also happens every day. So as far as my reference point is concerned, this is constant. This is out of time, because every day the same phenomena is happening. Similarly, my genetic code doesn't change. My fingerprint doesn't change. So there are so many things which are constant also. Even you said that you have to watch the thought, and watcher has to see the thought, but the watcher also seems to remain constant, or it is in one way it is a constant thing. So the life is made up of constant things as well as the changeable things, isn't it? Order and disorder, both are
I
there.
didn't say that I didn't say that watcher is a constant. I didn't say that, because to reach that state of watching, I have to give a lot. I have to drop a lot of things which we have been discussing to be in that state of mind. I have not reached that, and neither I can say with any confidence that watcher is constant. So that would be somebody else's statement. What is important is, as you brought out, to see the disorder in one's life and work with that first. I am presently in that state, working on my own disorders, and I do see that in that seeing, thought has limitations. I think
Yes,
a
sir,
few sessions back we had discussed about that if there's only one kind of understanding, and that is mechanical understanding. Other than that, it's all just seeing and perception. I know it's a very difficult thing to discuss, or it is to be seen only at a personal level. So I leave it at that.
Yes, sir, I do agree that thoughts is also comes and go. But this awareness also seems to be constant. A quality of awareness, if we see this awareness per se, this also seems to be constant.
Yes, I mean, what you're saying, from my experience, I do feel that yes, there is something which, in spite of one's life's ups and downs, in spite of one's life's difficulties, there is in all of us, in fact, at least I can say for myself, there is a factor of something which is kind of there, which is not affected by any of this. It springs back. Now, what is that? So I think we'll leave it at that.
Okay, sir. Thank
May I
you.
request Harshad Parekh sir to interfere and say?
Yeah. like in our tradition, this slokas Shankaracharya says, I am not body, I am not mind, Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivom. It's projecting something which is beyond the body and mind. But I think Krishna ji would not say such thing. He doubted, and only thing he talked about was this awareness, which can see whatever is happening. And he said that his mind was like a well-tuned drum, and you strike the drum and it gives a sound. So his mind was fully tuned. So if somebody asked a question to Krishna ji, and the answer will come spontaneously from somewhere, maybe from he himself cannot tell from where this answer coming. So such a state he was in, and but he did not say it is Shivoham or Chidananda Rupa. He did not use those words. He wanted to be quite different than tradition. So,
Yes, sir. But
okay.
many times, sir, he has given many times,
Pradeep,
sir, he has given indication, Parekh
yeah,
sir, many times
yeah.
he has given indication that if you come so far, then perhaps that which is beyond may come into picture or may come into being.
May I ask two small questions?
Yes, yes, yes.
Is it audible, sir?
Yes, audible.
Okay. So first we have seen that words have failed in telling us anything about both these important things, death as well as love. Right? Another thing is, so we chose a method of negation. As you just said, Shankaracharya said this, Krishnamurti said this, that is neither this, nor this, nor this, that, nor all that. But at times, Krishna ji is very positive in telling what love is. So I'll read 3-4 lines that will make the things clear. When there is love, this is a dialogue between Kupul Jakar and Krishnamurti. When there is love, there is total responsibility, not only to your family, but responsibility for all that is happening around you, politically, economically, socially, the pollution that is taking place. So he explains love like this. Now, through negation, we straight away said it is abnegation of self even. There should not be, if self is there, love is not. Now, this fellow, I am Pradeep, listening with the self, listening to words, thoughts. Milindji was telling that listening without thoughts, whatever is served is in the form of thoughts. So naturally, I am listening to the thoughts. I may not have judgment, I may not be judgmental, but thoughts are there. Who is is it the abnegation of self? The one who says that I have learnt a lot in relationship. So this I, which we very beautifully use this I and say something very big afterwards, is it not? Is it abnegation of the self? The self is not listening, self is not talking, self. Why we? These are idealistic to me. Practically speaking, I'm telling you, I listen as thoughts. I read as thoughts. But thought is so very important because this is all we have. So telling that abnegation of self, if it is there, love is not there. I don't understand this. because I have also felt heart and mind, what love is. Everybody has felt it in his life in some way or the other. So ultimately, less than whole, everything is self. The moment I start talking, it is separation of the whole. So this is, one has to question whether there is abnegation of self really, and who understands, who learns, who listens, who reads. So this is easy to, I can understand all the words that have been used, and I have read all those words, but this keeps me, I am always concerned about really what we are saying. Do we live that? Is it abnegation of self? Is it self is not there? Please, thank you very much. If you can say something about it, Moreji or Harshadji, please.
Yes.
After your answer, Anand sir will question, sir, because he has
Okay.
raised and है ना? So we have to
Yeah.
answer his question also after this
Yeah.
question.
Yeah. Pradeep ji said, thought is all we have. I do not agree with that. There is something else apart from thinking. Now, to say that there is something called awareness, I am using thought. But if I am not speaking, then I can look without thought. I can look at a tree or a human being or a sky or a sunset. And in that, there is great beauty. And in that state, there is no I, me. This I, me will come when I am expressing, I am talking, I am discussing, and that will come because we are using language and thinking to communicate. But when we are not communicating, we are not talking with each other, with each other, when we look at the sky, stars, we can look without this sense of self. And in that, there is a great beauty, love, all that exists. So that is what Krishna ji is also talking about. And he is also using words and thoughts. But when he looked at it, nature, he looked without the self. But later on, he came to his room and started writing in commentaries on living, describing the beauty of nature. Then he was bringing all those images in writing. So I would say thinking is not everything, all we have. There is something else, a different instrument which can look at thinking very clearly and everything else very clearly.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me. I never said thought is everything. I will never say that. But thought as a judge, whether as a judge thought is there while looking or seeing around, and as a judge I am there, then it's a problem. Otherwise, it's not a problem. You see,
Yes.
thoughts are there. Thought, without thought, how will you see? He has beautifully described the leaf, the curling leaf, the drying leaf, the hanging leaf, and flowers, and everything he has talked about it. So when not judging, I am not saying it is good or bad. Then it is not. I never said that thought is everything. No, it cannot be. Thought is a very small part of my brain based on my capacities and capabilities. So it's a foolish statement if I do that. Other than that, from where I get thought, the stream, the ocean, from where I get these things. But the thing is, my question is whether it's the abdication of self. Who learns? Who enjoys this beauty of nature without judgment, of course? I said the other day also, when you see wildflowers, you don't know what it has, what genus it belongs to. And so I'm not saying thought is necessary to enjoy that. So please I may not be misunderstood that way, but what practically life we are leading is based on thoughts, discussions, topics, quoting people. This is all, these are all words and thoughts, and there is self is there very much, who understands. So this is what exactly I want to say. Thank you very much. I have taken a lot of time.
Sir,
Ram,
Anand sir, please go ahead. Anand sir, please go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Anand sir,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
I'm sorry.
Yes, yes, we can hear.
Yeah, yes, sir. So these are only a few observations, sir. I mean, the last point was what Mr. Verma was talking about. I mean, I do agree with him. When I condemn something, I have no understanding of it. When I condemn thought, I have no understanding of it. That is my observation, sir. And the other observation, sir, when I keep quoting other great mystics and other people, is it because I feel that I'm small, I therefore quote somebody else is what what I'm looking at is, sir. Because when I have an understanding, when I know what love is, why do I have to quote Krishnamurti or anybody else? Can I see that? Or is it my own contradictions? It is my own misunderstanding, or I don't understand things in the right perspective. I wouldn't want to go beyond that, sir. That's my observation. That's all there is, sir. Nothing more than that. Sir. Thank you very much.
Parekh sir,
Yes.
sir, may I request you to keep the subject seeing is doing next
Okay.
week?
Okay, yeah, right.
You are agreeing to it?
Yeah,
You will have to start it for 30-35 minutes, and then Chidanandji and Milind will join it. That will be the frame. Now 4 minutes are left. Please conclude. Please conclude.
Can I
Okay.
say a few things? Just listening to Pradeep ji and Anand ji, if both of you actually are right, and all of us are right in a way of saying that words and thoughts and these things are limited, certainly. But I think the important question is that is that question also moving inwards towards me? Am I also, seeing it inwardly? Because you see, it's very easy to say so-and-so words, so-and-so speaking this way, or we are quoting this and all. We are all taking them, in my understanding, as tools, as perhaps crutches to a certain extent, because I have not understood it fully at this moment. And I find great delight in seeing a certain alignment when you see something like this, a certain resonance. And a resonance is not to be misconstrued as complete understanding. One still needs to work on it, and that question is more inward than outward. So if we look at it in the spirit of that understanding, then these questions will not come again and again, because as I said, my request for taking the topic of death was based on this only, that we keep questioning, we keep arguing, but are we really looking inward? Are we really dying to even the questions which are arising in our mind? Can we see the limitations of that? It is not about stopping the thought. It is not about completely doing away the thought. Thought has a place. And that is where the understanding of living, perhaps, where putting everything in its place comes in. Put the thought in its place and look inward. Again, look inward may become another word for all of us, but I would say let's not argue about it, and let it be directed inward. That's all. Thank you.
But
Thank you very much.
negation, sir, but negation is the most positive action, sir, not positive action. How do I understand that? Questions are the answers. I have to question. You may say it is very frivolous. You may say it's very profound. The moment I say it's frivolous or profound, I'm back to my conditioning. Can I look at the question? It may be a stupid question, sir, but can I listen to the question? Is what it is. What Kate has spoken about. And if I say it's very
Absolutely
frivolous,
right,
very stupid, it's very profound, again, I'm back to my conditioning. Over, sir.
Yes, sir. So you're right. I mean,
Parekh sir,
that's what
please
I was
conclude.
saying, sir.
Parekh sir, please conclude. Time is
Yes.
over. So please
Yeah.
conclude.
okay. I would say the words which come from silent clarity, such words affect many human beings, and the words of Krishnamurti did affect my life. It really changed something, a different way of living came just by reading the book. I did not know even, I had not met him. It was just the reading the book, because that words, they have a lot of power because it comes from clarity. And so there are other people also mistakes. When they say something, it affects many people. So it is not that words are not necessary. Words have power, great power. It depends on the person who is listening or reading, how he is doing it. So either a person, like many people read Krishnamurti books, and some people are not touched by it, and some people are intellectually touched, and some people are very deeply touched that it becomes for them a way of life living. So it has to do with the person who is reading or listening, and of course it has to do with those words, whether those words have come from silent clarity or not.
Sir,
Okay,
I have one question for you, sir. When you say Krishnamurti has changed my life, can I see myself operating there is my question, sir. The moment I say I am changed, can I look at that is my question, sir. That's about all,
No,
nothing more than that. Thank you.
it is just a fact I am saying, that's all.
Even when I say it's a fact, sir, fact does not have to be told. Fact is a fact. Truth is truth. The moment I say truth, it's from my background. The self is operating. Suppose you are doing something which is right. The whole world may disagree with you, but you know that is right. That's about all. You don't have to say anything about it. It may cost my life for that, but I'm willing to do it. But the moment they say I have changed, can I observe? I am back to my conditioning, back to myself. Thank you, sir.
No, even when somebody asks Krishnaji, whether a student asks Krishnaji, can you look at the tree without the images? And Krishnaji said, of course I can, otherwise I will not be talking about it. So Krishnaji also mentioned many things about his own life. So it doesn't mean that if I say something about myself, it means that the I has is very, very active, egoistic. It's not like that.
So somebody asked that question to Krishnamurti, sir. Again, when he says he looked at the tree, you and I are looking at the tree with the word tree. Most of the time we fail to understand that it may be a neem tree or a tamarind tree or something like that. But when the moment I say it's a tree, it's an image. So when a student had asked, he has replied, but he doesn't say, he doesn't go and say, I'm an enlightened person. I understand, my thought is not operating. He never said that. Oh,
Sir, what I think is it's not wiping out of the ego, it's a freedom from the ego. These two things are different. What do you have to say, Harshad, sir?
Yes, it may come, but when it comes, one can see it, it has come.
Yes, yes.
It's like a fear
Operative,
also.
Sir, it is
operative ego
already
will always remain.
7:33. It is already 7:33. Please let it be finished. Continue like seeing is doing. Please,
Okay.
because we are going
Okay.
on in one direction. Thank you very much, sir. Sir,
thank you.
expected
Thank you, sir.
back
Thank you
on
very much.
Thursday. Everybody, Anand sir, and
Yes, sir.
everybody who
Thanks to all.
Sir, do you know Hillary, sir?
Oh.
Harshad, sir, do you know Hillary from Canada?
Yeah,
He is a
yes.
speaker. Yes.
Yeah, I
So
know.
he is a speaker. On Sunday, and time is 9 a.m. 9 a.m. So you will be requested. You are requested. So please do come. All 20 persons who are here are requested to join at 9 a.m. Repeatedly saying 9 a.m. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Kamlesh ji,
Okay.
please finish it. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you.